Look, man, you read the title, right? Long-term streaks of semen retention are a psychedelic experience. Yes, sir. Let me say that again. Long-term streaks of semen retention, long-term streaks of celibacy are psychedelic experiences. And you might be wondering, okay, man, how the hell does that even make any sense? What's the dose of the psychedelics semen retention and celibacy gets me to? What is the effects that come along with it? How much should I take? Well, relax. Relax, relax. Because it's time for your boy to break this bitch down real quick like a brick for y'all. Now, the whole premise of today's discussion, the title for today's video about semen retention and celibacy being a kind of correlating experience to psychedelics is due to the fact that if you've taken psychedelics, if you know, they truly alter and shift your reality like nothing else. They are super powerful in just being able to shift your perspective on what you believe this whole world is all about. In my opinion, an analogy of what I've always thought about psychedelics being is, imagine you are someone who needs glasses. You've always been walking around life with blurry vision. And you finally get the right glasses, the right prescription glasses, you put them on, and now you finally see the things that were always right there in front of you, but they were being blurred out by your vision. Psychedelics do that, but on a spiritual and more metaphysical level. All the experiences, all the knowledge, all the gnosis, aka the knowledge, the divine wisdom that can only be accessed from within, is finally unlocked in these heightened states of consciousness. And you finally see reality for what it really is, without the filter of what your ego is trying to tell you, what society is trying to tell you, what your friends, what your family is trying to tell you. You finally see things for what they truly are. They were always right there in front of you, but your filters weren't allowing you to be able to tap into them. And when you practice semen retention, and I'm talking about long-term streaks, I'm not talking about 20 days of semen retention, 30 days of semen retention, even 90 days. Yet, even with those smaller streaks, your reality will shift gradually, but it isn't as intense as the long-term streaks of celibacy, brahmacharya, and being chaste. Because when you're on those long-term streaks, just like how psychedelics, you can pop them in and boom, shift your reality, turn it into second gear, third gear, fourth gear on the spiritual senses, on the spiritual side of things. The same thing will also happen to you on a more gradual and more sustainable kind of foundation, instead of just using external drugs and external substances to get you to that point. The same thing does happen to you while you practice semen retention. Like, it truly does have that same effect. It truly does have that same power to be able to catapult your state of consciousness to its higher realms, to these higher states. And this all comes down to the fact that now, just like when you take psychedelics, your perspective on the world starts to become clearer, starts to become pure. When you practice semen retention, your consciousness also starts to raise. Like we said before on a video that was dropped recently on this channel, celibacy is a catalyst to these higher states of consciousness. It's almost like a slingshot. When you practice semen retention, it's like you're grabbing the slingshot, bringing it back, bringing it back, bringing it back, bringing it back. And that's your consciousness, which would be the rock, and to these higher states. You just get launched. It's not really something that you have to try to do. It just happens in due time along this journey. And when that happens to you on this whole journey of semen retention, celibacy, and purifying yourself from within, your perspective on reality, your perspective on just the world in general starts to shift so much that it is truly something that can only be expressed and experienced from your own first-hand understanding, your inner standing. Your whole focus on life is funneled towards fulfillment, instead of chasing surface level desires, instead of chasing fleeting emotions. Again, another thing that we talked about recently on this channel, how when you practice semen retention, surface level desires become stupid. It's due to this psychedelic like effect where your psyche is completely being altered, where your focus in life is completely being funneled towards something that is higher, that is going to give you true fulfillment in life, rather than just a couple seconds of dopamine pleasure. You start to look deeper into this existence. Look deeper into your own existence of who you are and what you were really brought here to do. You're no longer a slave to the senses. You're no longer a slave to sexual impulses, to sensual cravings. You start abiding in something like I've coined before as spiritual ecstasy, true bliss. And that shifts your reality so much as you're just walking about your day. You're no longer dependent on external sources of pleasure to give you that sense of feeling that you want out of life. You're no longer dependent to pornography giving you that relief. You're no longer dependent on chasing women to give you that relief. You're no longer dependent on sex to give you that relief. You're no longer dependent on fast food, on social media. All these types of things starts to dissolve. The dependency to them starts to dissolve when you practice semen retention due to this psychedelic-like effect. It's something, again, I keep reinstating this and repeating this, that can only be felt from within. As someone who's been on this journey for 4 years now, I'm telling you firsthand from my own experience and being experienced on the other side of reality, the other side of existence, where I was being dominated by my lower desires. I understand that realm too. I'm not some saint. I'm not some pure monk that's never done any of this stuff, bro. I've been in the degenerate side of reality as well. And I understand how that state is uncomparable to this state, the higher realms, the higher chakras, the higher states of consciousness that you access. And my first initial introduction into them was, of course, through psychedelics. But funny enough, psychedelics led me on the path that you see me on today when it comes to talking about all the things that you see on this channel, on the main channel, on the private Patreon community. Shout out to the fucking private Patreon community, man. Look, if you're interested in topics like this, subjects like this, then I'm telling you right now, you are doing yourself, yes, you are doing yourself a disfavor by not joining up into the private Patreon community. Because within there, man, we get deep into the esoteric science of self-mastery, unpacking different exclusive videos, full guides, in-depth occult lectures that are all aimed at helping you elevate yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually on this journey towards self-mastery. And if you tap into the Philosopher's Circle, you'll also be able to get access to our bi-weekly mastermind live calls. Yes, so we're doing 2 live calls each and every single month, 2 times a month, bi-weekly. We hop on a call with me, as well as a community of like-minded men who are also on this path of self-mastery, who are also on this journey to elevating themselves to their highest potential mentally, physically, and spiritually. We speak on topics like psychedelics, like consciousness, like semen retention, like fitness, like overall developing ourselves holistically to embody our highest self. Got a private group chat, got these mastermind live calls, all that good stuff, man. The highest membership tier group within the private Patreon community, the Philosopher's Circle, that's where you get access to all that good stuff, man. So if you're interested in stuff like that and you want to curate your community and be a part of a overall movement of men who are focused not just on self-improvement, but true self-mastery, then this is a place for you. Check out the links posted in the pinned comment of this video. Because within the pinned comment of this video, you'll also be able to get access to our other links and other services, whether that be personalized coaching programs with me, one-on-one consultation calls, the free community Discord server, weekly newsletters, all that good stuff posted in the pinned comment of this video. God damn, man, the sun is glaring, but I'm soaking it up. What I was saying though is people that are tapped into the main channel, the second channel, of course right here, the second channel, the private Patreon community, the people I work with one-on-one, the one-on-one consultation calls, all that stuff, man. All these different practices, techniques, tips, subjects, and topics that we discuss will shift your perspective on reality, because your perspective on reality is being warped and programmed by what society wants you to believe, by what society wants to propagate you to. It wants you to become a pawn on the chessboard, something that they can use, be a mere cog to the machine, a cog in the matrix. That is what Maya, the illusion, refers to. In the Vedic philosophy, Maya is the veil that's put on this reality that blocks you off from understanding the deeper layers of it, that blocks you off from the underlying aspects of it, and it only allows you to see the surface level. Psychedelics are something that strips that veil away, but semen retention and celibacy on the long-term aspects does that, and probably does that even more sustainably, because when you take psychedelics, it's like you go all the way up to the mountaintop of self-realization, but you descend back down just as quick as you went up. The journey of self-mastery, which semen retention and celibacy is a catalyst and a fuel for, allows you to abide in that state of self-realization as you climb up the mountain step by step, and each step you take, the perspective of reality shifts more and more and more and more to understand and understand the underlying truth of reality of who you are and what you were really brought here to do. Not just to satisfy the senses, not just to satisfy the ego, not just to satisfy your lower level desires, but here to actually pursue your dharma, your spiritual mission, your spiritual duty. That is what is unveiled on this whole journey of self-mastery, and semen retention just gives you the fuel to do that. You're no longer chained and tied down to these attachments that bind you to being dependent on the external world for feeling some sort of emotion. You abide in a state of existence which is higher than any type of emotion can replicate. A state of existence is internal. An emotion is external. It comes and goes. A state of existence is internal and it stays. It abides as long as you remain in that state. When you're practicing semen retention, you get into that state of existence, those states of consciousness, as you raise up the scale, as you raise up the spinal column, if you want to call it that, the nervous system, to be in a state of full immersion within life, while also not being tied down to the external world. You can fully be encapsulated and enveloped within all the beauty of life and not be attached to the small, minuscule, surface level desires. When you are operating in your day-to-day life, all you see is all you know. Let me say that again. When you're operating in your day-to-day life, all you see is all you know. You believe that this is who you are. You're meant to go to this job. You're meant to do this thing in life. You're meant to do X, Y, and Z because society has shown you that's all it is. Society has fed you these lies. The matrix has enveloped you within the veil of Maya. But in order for you to truly realize who and what you are on a deeper level beyond the physical body, beyond even your mental emotions, and enveloped within the spiritual nature of your being, you have to learn how to transcend beyond the body and learn how to transcend beyond the mind. When you take psychedelics, you realize you're not the body. You realize you're not even the mind. When I say that to you, for the people that have taken psychedelics, you know what the fuck I'm saying. You are picking up what the fuck I'm putting down. For the people that have not taken psychedelics yet, I said yet, Hey, I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But hey, if you are, tap into the private Patreon community. We got a full guide on how to take psychedelics properly for psychological and spiritual growth. Not just for, oh man, I want to go rave with my friends. Fuck no, man. Learning how to use these tools for what they truly are as medicines for the mystical ascension of man. God damn, let me say that again. As medicines for the mystical ascension of man. That's what they really were brought here to do, not just to geek up and shroom out with your friends at a party. Even though people might find some joy in doing that, it's still gonna bite them in the ass later on. But for the people that, again, have not taken psychedelics, that have maybe felt these shifts within their meditative experiences, what I'm trying to kind of correlate this to is the fact that you start to detach from name and from form and from ego. And when I'm saying that is you go beyond just, imagine your name is Johnny. You go beyond just being, oh, I'm Johnny. You go beyond the body that Johnny has, and you go beyond the mind that Johnny operates with. You go past that. Not in a state of where you break it off and it's completely not there anymore, but you realize, oh man, there's another layer, there's another door to this life. I'm telling you, right now, semen retention does that too. And probably much more in a sustainable manner. Because like I said before, you continue the progress you make. It's not as fast, and it's not as intense, and it's not as crazy, and there's no cool colors, there's no cool trippy effects when you're on semen retention, but that same shift of your psyche and consciousness is happening beneath the surface, behind the scenes. And when you look at yourself after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years, or whatever it is, whatever a long-term streak is for you, you'll come back and be like, oh man, that person I was before is no longer the type of consciousness I'm operating in right now. The state of awareness that you're operating in within this world is just raised naturally. It's something, again, I have to say it one more time, that cannot be put into words, that must be experienced. And just practicing semen retention obviously isn't going to do that. It is a catalyst, is that slingshot, but you need to have the other foundational elements in there as well. Spiritual practices, a creative pursuit, physical vitality maxing. You need all these things in place, but retention is like the cornerstone, is the foundation. It is something that touches on the physical, touches on the spiritual, and touches on the mental elevation of the self. It is all a part of this whole journey. Everything, yes, can be compartmentalized to improving the mind, improving the body, improving the soul, but semen retention helps improve all of them. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it is the catalyst, I always say, the life force, the juice, the fuel to skyrocket yourself to these fulfillment states of consciousness. Understanding more of who you are on a deeper layer, and not letting society, not letting the matrix, not letting the Maya fool you into thinking who you are is this body and just this mind, and that you're a slave to the senses, and you're a slave to your urges, and you're a slave to your cravings, and there's nothing else beyond that. If that was the case, if that was all you were meant to be, you would have came here as an animal. You would have came here as an animal. I have no doubt about that. Your state of consciousness, if that's all it was meant to do, just focus on survival, sex, and status, you would have came here as an animal. You will have the blessing of inhabiting this physical body with this psyche that has the ability and capability to transcend the lower states of consciousness and abide in the higher realms of reality through this human experience. You were blessed with that. And the whole world is just trying to make you forget that. Make you think that, oh man, this is all by coincidence, this is all by math, this is all by numbers, this is all by probability. There's a reason, bro. The universe doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. And in order for you to tap into God consciousness or Godhood, it requires you to shift your perspective on who you are, on what this life is all about. You can't be living the NPC normal lifestyle if you want to ascend to these higher states. It just doesn't work like that. You have to learn how to rise above and beyond the barriers that this world is trying to barricade you under, constrain you under, keep your consciousness under. And the carnal mind is something that is subjugated to that point. If it is the dominating mindset that you have to just feed into your carnal nature by being a slave to sex, by being a slave to your senses, by being a slave to junk food, by being a slave to social media, whatever it is just going to further feed that anchor that is dragging your consciousness down and never allowing you to realize what lies beyond the movie scene, the projection of Maya that we are accustomed to watching right now. While psychedelics will do that for you, like we said, I'm here to tell you right now, semen retention, long-term celibacy, the effects that gives you, like truly is something that is necessary, in my opinion, for the man, for all you men out there who are truly serious about ascending on this path of self-mastery. It isn't the end-all be-all. I'm not saying semen retention is the greatest thing in the world. It isn't the one-way ticket to godhood. But it is a practice, a discipline, a vessel for the soul, for the spirit, for your consciousness to break free from the carnal nature, the animalistic mindset that we have been so accustomed to operating with, and we don't even realize it. The general, normal person doesn't realize that they're operating at the same level of consciousness as an animal. They don't realize that the whole world revolves around survival, sex, and status. I didn't realize it until practicing semen retention for a good amount of time. And I see it more prevalent as it continue on. How the masses are stuck and subjugated unto that point. And you might be. And I'm not saying anything that's bad about you. I'm not saying you're evil. I'm not saying any of this stuff. The people, the masses, the NPCs are bad people. They have just not awakened to this. And that might not be their purpose for this lifetime. And that's totally fine. But for the people that are watching this channel, that are watching the main channel, that tapped into the private Patreon community, that might be working with me one-on-one in the personalized coaching program, booking consultation calls, but specifically, in my opinion, that watch this channel, like I've said this before, people who are watching this specific channel are more psychologically and spiritually more mature than the masses. I'm not saying you're better than anyone. You just have been dealt some good cards for you to be able to grasp these types of concepts. You cannot waste those cards, and you cannot just lie to yourself saying that, oh man, yeah, this sounds cool. Vladi just talking about all these psychedelic semen retention. Oh man, that's cool. Mentally masturbating while I'm spitting this game. Oh man, it sounds cool. It sounds great. It sounds awesome. But I'm not gonna actually apply this wisdom. I'm not gonna actually apply these teachings into my life to be able to actually experience it firsthand for myself and understand, not understand, but understand what this idiot is talking about. So I don't think that he's whacked out, that he's psycho, that he's crazy. I actually understand, but oh man, he isn't schizo. It is some real deal shit how long-term semen retention is similar to a psychedelic experience. Like for you guys out there that are not doing that, you are not in alignment to the true will of your spirit. And you're just gonna be living a life that is fake, that is a facade. For some people, this path is a facade for them. And that's totally fine. But for you, if you're able to watch this type of content, watch a video for this damn long, about these types of topics and subjects, my bad, then you correlate and you resonate with this information. And you need to turn this knowledge into gnosis. You need to turn this knowledge that goes into your brain into knowledge that is felt into your heart. Knowledge, gnosis. You need to apply it. You need to figure out your own formula for shifting that perspective, helping you to realize what is underneath these surface level layers of existence and these surface layers of yourself. Psychedelics might be in the formula for you. Meditation might be in the formula for you. Pranayama might be in the formula for you. Whatever it is. Again, the stuff I talk about on this channel, on the main channel, on the private Patreon community with the people I work with one-on-one, are all just tools, tips, and techniques to help find your own formula to figure out what truly brings you to that point of consciousness where you realize what is going to really bring you true fulfillment in life, where you understand what is your dharma, where you understand what is your true spiritual duty, what you are on a deeper layer beyond the body, beyond the mind, and what you were really brought here to do beyond just gratifying the mind and the body. All these things are just tools, tips, and techniques. There is no one way. There is no right way, and there is no wrong way. But if I was to say one thing, is that semen retention, this whole practice, is a universal pillar in all your guys' formulas to that point. It is that powerful and it is that impactful. Psychedelics might not be for everyone. Matter of fact, it is not for everyone, even on this path. But semen retention, even though I'm going to be making a whole video about how it's not for everyone on the general scheme of things, but for this group and this niche of people that I'm talking to right now, that are truly inquiring about this path of self-mastery because they realize that's what's going to bring them true fulfillment in life, not the external pleasures, not the sensual gratifications. I'm telling you right now, semen retention is a cornerstone for all of you guys' journey, some form of it. Some of you guys might take it to the next level. Some of you guys might just keep it at the baseline where it's at, and that's totally fine. But for those who are ready to take it up to the next level, I'm telling you right now, get ready for a psychedelic experience that shifts your perspective on reality like no other. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be just intense and direct like a psychedelic substance. But I'm telling you, over time, you will realize what I'm saying is 100% facts. Because it's not something that I just made up. The ancient yogis, the ancient sages, the ancient mystics, the sadhus, the monks, the saints, all realized the same thing too. All understood the same topic too. Maybe they didn't realize it was a psychedelic experience, but they realized that it shifts your state of consciousness on a crazy level for the betterment of you and the development of your dharma. Being able to realize what are the God-given gifts you were given to by the divine source and bring that out into the external world for the betterment of humanity, for the overall elevation of the collective consciousness of humanity. That's what the spirit was really brought here to do. The body and the mind are just tools to help it along that journey. But in the modern world we live in today, we forget about that aspect, and we disconnect our phone line to the spirit, our Wi-Fi signal to the spirit, and we just fall into the trap, the facade, the mirage that life is all about gratifying the senses, gratifying the physical body, and gratifying our mental state of existence. Those are supposed to be subordinate to the spirit. The senses should not be calling the shots. You should not be a slave to them. The higher consciousness of man should be the one that is actually steering the ship. That's the type of perspective shift that happens on these long-term streaks of semen retention. And it isn't some type of thing that you'll, again, find on a book, find on a piece of paper, find on a Patreon video, on a video on here. It's the type of information that once you actually put it into play, put it into motion, and see everything start to warp within your own internal world, which in turn shifts and warps your external world, that's when you're like, that's right. That's right. That's when you realize the underlying nature of reality and the underlying nature of your own existence. So again, if you're somebody on this journey towards self-mastery, I'm telling you right now, semen retention is a cornerstone aspect of it. Psychedelics might not be, but that effect you get from psychedelics can be naturally and gradually over time be produced through this practice. Truly. If you're wondering, okay, man, everything you're saying sounds cool, sounds amazing, but how do I actually get to these long streaks of semen retention? Well, your boy's got you covered with a full guide on the main channel if you haven't tapped into that yet. Just type in how to succeed on semen retention. Go on the main channel, Fulati Fitness, whole video guide on that. Whole video guide. And within there, you get access to the free ebook, the Art of Retention ebook, which goes even more in depth and more in detail to all the different types of disciplines, practices, and overall routines that you need to implement into your life to make sure that you're able to actually practice retention for these long periods and actually experience what I'm saying firsthand for yourself, of it being a psychedelic-like effect. Because again, like I said before, it ain't just from semen retention that's gonna happen. And if you just try to abstain from sexual release without the proper, just overall practical implements in place and practices and disciplines, you're gonna fail. You're not gonna be able to see the long-term effects. You need to have the foundational elements to hold you through that. These are crucial components that you cannot be missing out on. So there's a full guide about that on the main channel. There's a full ebook about that on the full guide on the main channel. And if you need an extra source of guidance, of course, we got you covered within our personalized coaching programs. Book a consultation call with me. Hop into the Philosopher Circle and jump into these live calls, these mastermind live calls, these bi-weekly live calls with us, and the private group chat where we can discuss all these topics and actually be around a community of like-minded men to hold you accountable along that journey. If you truly want to experience these psychedelic-like effects firsthand for yourself. And look, if you dyslexic, you retarded, and you can't read a book, your boy's got you covered with a full audio version of the Art of Retention ebooks that you can pop in while you're walking, while you're going about your day, and get up on some games so you ain't out here looking like a motherfucking lame. You dig what I'm saying? Come on, man. Listen. I'm telling you, bro. Long-term semen retention and celibacy is a psychedelic-like experience. If you want to really shift your perspective on reality, give it a go. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It's been your boy out here in the field, in the flesh, dropping y'all that game so you guys can make these games, and I'm out of here. Peace.